Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So it's been a while since I did a Kindle Unlimited update. I think it's been since January, and I have read quite a few things from Kindle Unlimited since then. So let's talk about all of the books that I talked about in my last video and what happened with them. So the first book that I talked about in my 2022 Kindle Unlimited TBR was Stay With Me. This is an angsty story of two kids at a university for misfits. I ended up DNFing this at about 55%. I really thought that the angst was pointless. I'm an angsty bitch. I love angst, but I need a reason for it, and the decisions they were making were pointless, and they were just an attempt to make it more angsty, which I didn't love. Found it kind of boring. And then I talked about Hunting Adeline, which was the book club pick for the Dark Maidens book club for February. And I ended up giving this 3 stars. You can watch the live show for my in-depth thoughts, but I basically felt like it was dark for the sake of darkness. The characters' motivations and the things that they didn't really make any sense. It was overly long, and the redemption arc for the hero felt a little weird. So altogether, I just didn't love it. It had the potential to be a 5-star, and it just didn't work out. So then we have Second Comes Vengeance, and I actually read this and Third Comes War, I think it's what it's called, in this Promised in Blood series, and I gave both of them 5 stars. This is a fantastic dark mafia reverse harem, and I just love all of the characters. The third one actually made me cry. So if you, for some reason, have watched several of my videos and haven't heard of this series, I highly recommend you pick it up. We then have Satan's Affair, which I actually returned without reading. After reading Hunting Adeline, I was a little weary of this author's writing, and we were actually on that live show, and I was talking about how Satan's Affair was on my TBR, and someone said it's not good, it's not a romance even, so I kind of just am not really interested in reading it. And the author has come forward and said she wasn't able to write it how she wanted to, which is unfortunate, but I just don't really have an interest in picking it up at this point. We then have Hooked, which I gave 3 stars. This is a dark Peter Pan, but the hero is Hook and the heroine is Wendy, and he's trying to get revenge on her father or something along those lines, and it was not good. It felt very underdeveloped. It felt dark for the sake of being dark without any real darkness. The characters felt very one-dimensional, and that's exactly the issue that I had with my next one, Promises and Pomegranates, which I also gave 3 stars. This is a Hades and Persephone, and this leaned way too heavy into recreating the Hades and Persephone mythology without actually making it make sense. And I felt like more effort was put into making it a Hades and Persephone than actually developing the characters, and it was just a lot of sex and sexy times, and I didn't really understand the couple, and the plot wasn't there enough to make it fun. The hero had this very toothless revenge plot against her family, but he wasn't really trying. There was no moves to get revenge, so altogether both of those were just really okay. So then we have Savages, which is a bully romance, which I super enjoyed. It's a reverse harem. 2 of the heroes and the heroine are in a motorcycle club. The heroine's father is the leader of the motorcycle club, and he had an affair with, a relationship with the hero's mother. And the hero's mother passes away, and after there is some unrest in a rival gang, they move the hero and his sister into the heroine's house, and he is tasked with protecting her and his sister because they think that a rival gang is going to attack them. And it ends up being a reverse harem between him, his friend, who is a prospect in the motorcycle gang, and another guy that I think is going to come in later in the series. But I really loved this. The heroine is super strong. She is the definition of a motorcycle princess. She fights back, constantly wants to get involved. doesn't sit on the sidelines. I really enjoyed it. I thought the bully elements were great. Lots of angst. I recommend it. So then I read Southern Storms. This is the first book in the Compass series by Brittany C. Cherry. I love Brittany C. Cherry. She's one of my all-time favorite authors. I turn to her if I want something deeply emotional. So when I picked this up, I was expecting great things, and unfortunately, that is not what I got. Sometimes with Brittany C. Cherry, it hasn't happened often. I've only had one or two of her standalones where I kind of feel like the emotions just don't hit with me. And that's what I felt here. So this is the story of a woman who just got out of a bad divorce. She lost her daughter and her parents in a car accident, and so she's deep in her grief, and her ex-husband basically tells her she needs to get over it. He's tired of listening to her cry all the time. She embarrasses him, and he leaves her and makes her move out. So she goes and stays with her sister. Her sister rents her a house that they had just finished flipping, and she meets one of the next door neighbors that their properties butt up against each other. And he is also going through some grief on his end because his father is really sick, but he didn't have a good relationship with his father, and his family dynamics are very strained. So he's very prickly, very grumpy. The grumpy sunshine dynamic is something that Brittany C. Cherry does very well, and I did think that it was done well here, but overall the emotional aspect of this just didn't hit with me, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. I'll probably continue the series, but I have my expectations lowered for sure. We then have Games We Play, which I gave 1 star. If you are not familiar, this author has been accused of plagiarism, this story specifically, and some other disgusting things, and her friends' reactions to the evidence that was provided is not great, so I bumped this down to a 1 star. I left this review on the book saying that it was plagiarized with the victim's, available story, and I will no longer be supporting this author. We have It Ain't Me Babe, which I ended up DNFing. This is a motorcycle club series, and this first one is about a heroine who just got out of a cult, and she runs into the hero at his motorcycle club. So she passes out in front of it, and he's now leading this motorcycle club, and he is mute, and I hated the dialogue in this. I hated the way they talked. Everything about it was just so off-putting. Every woman was called bitch. It wasn't a term of endearment or anything like that. In my opinion, that's not how it read. It was just disgusting. I couldn't stand it. This is why I generally avoid motorcycle romances in general. I don't like the way that they talk about each other and women. I just don't like it. And I didn't get very far in until I was yeah, this is just not for me, so I ended up DNFing it. I read Her Soul for Revenge, which I gave 5 stars. This is the second book in the Souls trilogy, and this follows the same timeline as the first one, but it follows a different couple, and they don't really overlap all that much, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. I love this couple a lot more than I did the first one. Their dynamic is the heroine is a victim that escaped this cult in this town, and she's coming back to get revenge, and she uses the help of the hero who is a demon. He's very bubbly and energetic, and he's also very domineering. They have kind of a cat and mouse dynamic. There's some dubcon in here, but that's part of their play together. This was a fantastic inclusion in the trilogy. I love this trilogy so much. It just hits the spot for me for a horror romance. It's everything that I want, and I really enjoyed that one. So then we have Unhinged. This is the first book in this psychopath hero series, and this one in particular is about a hero who saw the other hero murder his father when they were teenagers, and he comes up with when they're adults, he comes up on him in an alley and tries to kill him, and the psychopath hero is hey, I'm not this is not what you think it is. I don't want to tell you why I killed your father, because I don't want you to ruin that relationship. And then he ends up finding out what happened, and they go on this journey of killing all of the people that wronged him. And it was cute. It was very sweet. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was okay. Their relationship is right off the bat together, and that's just not the level of angst that I like in my romances. And the plot was fun. but it wasn't anything spectacular, which is just perfectly fine. Some reads are 3 stars, and they don't need to be anything more. I probably will continue the series at some point, because this whole family is like psychopaths raised by a guy to be like vigilantes. Then we have Broken, which is an office romance that I ended up DNFing because they have an early hookup, and like I just said with Unhinged, I don't like that. I don't like having that no tension in the relationship, but it is an office, it's a boss employee. They hook up in a bar, and then they find out the next day that they're like working together. The hookup in the bar isn't the problem, it's the hookup like that happens like 20% of the way through. Again, no tension, no angst there, and that's just not really my thing. So then we have Deviant King, and I haven't read this yet, but I still have it. I'm reading it for the Dark Romance Readathon in April, but it is like a high school bully. We have Zodiac Academy, and I ended up DNFing this. No. I hated this. I didn't hate it. The writing is not good, and everything else is just kind of boring. The world wasn't entertaining enough for me. Like, it just felt very weird. I don't get the appeal personally. It's basically about these 2 girls who are like just scraping to get by, and then they get recruited by the school because they're like some lost fae heirs or something like that. They go to the school where people have magic, and like everybody bullies them because they don't want them to take over royal line or whatever, and I just didn't really like it. And it's like a 7-book series, and personally, or like a 10-book series, and personally I'm not interested in reading several books to get to a good book. So I also haven't read Love Letter to Whiskey yet. Don't know what it's about, but I still plan to read it. I did read Seventh Circle. I gave it 3 stars. This is like a spin-off series of the Madison Kate series, and it just was a little too serious for what I was really expecting, and it didn't have like the fun angstiness in the relationship. It was focused more on like her past and stuff like that, so 3 stars. And then I haven't read The Bridge Kingdom, but I do plan on reading that, and I did not finish The 3-Body Problem, but I did return it just because I don't see myself getting to it unless I just have this overwhelming urge, and I want that spot for other books. So now we will get into the books that I have added to my list that I still want to read. So we have Ensnared. I don't know too much about this. I just know that it is a monster romance, and the hero is like a spider, and I think the heroine is just like a regular human. So then we have a Fated Mates book called Good Girl, and I think this might have multiple partners. I'm not quite sure. All I know is like the heroine needs to find her mate to protect her. She might fake date or fake mate with another guy to like protect her. I have been keeping it on this list, but I could be persuaded not to read it. I think my mom was just like, hey, add this to your KU library, and then I did. And so then I have The Silver Swan, which I think is another high school bully. That's all I need to hear. I will add it to my list. We have Crow. This is the first book in the Boston Underground series. It is a mafia romance. I have heard fantastic things about it, and I'm going to be reading it for the Dark Romance Readathon. Same with Lords of Pain. I think this is a dark bully reverse harem, and again, I will be reading that for the Dark Romance Readathon. We have Still Beating, which is about a woman and her sister's fiance who don't really like each other, and then they end up getting kidnapped and put in this basement, and it's like how that bonds them together. We have A Ruin of Roses. I don't know what this is about. I've heard multiple things about it, and then I added it to my list, and I know that Tamika really enjoyed this. She was like raving to me about it, so I added it to my more immediate list. We have Lilac, which is a rock star romance. And I don't really love rockstar romances, but I think this is like the most popular one. And like, it depends, but they can be very angsty and very good. We have The Truth About Heartbreak, which I haven't read anything by this author before. And the like synopsis is very vague. It's basically, it just says, I fell in love with him when I was 13. He was older, mysterious, unattainable. The guy I could never touch. Then one night changed everything for us. But there was one huge problem. He belonged to her. So I don't know if she's like an adult. I haven't heard anybody say that she's a minor during this, but I also haven't like paid super close attention when people talk about it. So we'll see how that one goes. We have Sicko by Emo Jones. This is the April pick for the Dark Maidens book club. I don't know what this is about. I have read one book previously by Emo Jones and I didn't like it. And she has just like edgy books, so we'll see how that is. I have King of Quorum. Again, I think another high school bully romance. I have Vicious Little Snakes, which is a Gossip Girl retelling. I have heard fantastic things. I'm excited to get to that one. We have All Things Burn, which is a hitman, like hitman and his like person that he's supposed to be killing, I think. We have What Are the Odds, which I've heard really good things about. I heard Mina from Mina Reads talk about this one. I think there's cheating. We have What He Doesn't Know, which is a very popular duet, I think, and it involves a woman who's married and then someone from her past shows up and she like cheats on her husband, and it's like it's like a love triangle, and you like really don't know who she's gonna end up with. And then the last book that I have to read is Serpents. Again, this is another high school bully romance, so I'm just thriving with these bully romances. So those are all of the things in my KU library. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on anything that I have on this list. If I should bump something up and read it immediately, please let me know. Also, let me know what you have to plan to read from KU. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.